it's interesting how we can be sort of in a great mood and feeling on top of the world, and then doubt begins to start creeping in, and we begin to have all these sort of self-defeating thoughts about how we don't have what we want, and how we will never get what we want, and how life is sort of a long, meaningless journey of disappointment and like an energy draining experience of that just seems to be designed to make us feel like we're worthless, and like nothing ever works out correctly, and why is everything so fucking difficult? Why don't things manifest in a more natural and easy way? Why aren't we supported by people in this world? Why does it just seem like why is it that we're so like on our own? And I do think that this has become more of a problem in our current era of society, because we're like we've traded some of the hardships of life and community for sort of this comfortable life of technology, sort of that takes care of a lot of our things for us, that no longer require this more traditional lifestyle of hunting and gathering, and sort of relying on our tribe as teammates, and having that connection to a community, because now we're like sort of incentivized through this horrendous educational system that we all sort of seem to have agreed upon for whatever reason. It's just, I don't know, it just seems like we take for granted that this education system is supposed to be something good for us, but I think it's actually very marginalizing and isolating. And essentially what happens, we are put in a classroom, or whether we succeed or we fail is like entirely sort of up to us as individuals, from early childhood. Where when we do good in school, it's because we've studied hard, and we've paid attention in class, and we did our homework, and we did all this, but for who? But for what? It's all sort of for ourselves, for our ego, for our individual sort of success that may happen somewhere down the road. And so everything is about this idea of it doesn't matter if you are getting any sort of fulfillment or satisfaction out of this shitty fucking schoolwork that has nothing to do with us, because like even what we're learning isn't being taught to us by people who love us. It's just all this like harsh, cold environment of you do this because you're told essentially to do this, and it's very difficult to like stand up against it and say, hey, maybe this is like not good for our mental health. Maybe like being marginalized and cornered into this individual sort of state of failing or succeeding purely based on this idea of success that may or may not happen, and doesn't really cater to the individual talents of the individual is sort of forced upon us. And yeah, it's very difficult to argue against, because most people just say, well, if you don't get an education, then how are you going to get a good job? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? You got to get good grades, and you got to, if you want to be part of a community someday, you got to like take school serious. And, that may work for, it probably works for like a lot of people sufficiently well, but, there's like, what about for those of us who just can't function in that system? Like, what about those of us who just were not well suited to go along that path? What about us? What do we just get thrown in the dumpster? I mean, is that what you guys? Is this what the world wants? Is just accept that a certain amount of people, regardless of whether they have any talent or skill, is we just throw them away. And because like, oh, we're not going to cater to the needs of individuals. They have to succeed based on our government education system that is forced on us by law, that we send our children to this fucking psychological torture camps, essentially. So I know this may sound like kind of like, well, what this guy sounds kind of radical in his thinking. Like, he sounds like, ooh, this is like extreme, sort of rhetoric. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is why do I feel this way? Because I did fucking like 12 and a half years of bullshit education that left me feeling like psychologically isolated and depressed and marginalized. And I'm 37 years old now, and part of what traumatized me severely is this horrendous education system that I was forced to partake in. So yeah, I don't know. All these educators and teachers and administrators, they can all pat themselves on the back for sort of brutalizing a huge segment of the population. Like, because well, let's say it's like 2% of the children aren't being served by this educational system. Well, 2% in a country of like 500 million. You do the math. That's a huge amount of people that are just being, essentially tortured and, abused by an education system that just does not give a fuck about us. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are gonna, argue with me and disagree upon me, because they're gonna say, well, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Well, yeah, well, that's you guys. And, I'm one of the few. And you know what? I'm going to represent the interests of the few of us who, weren't recognized and were discarded and basically told that we didn't have any use or function. And essentially, what we did was we like crawled into our little fucking cages and tried desperately to survive on our own. And and it's been extremely painful, and I'm not going to shut up about it. I'm not going to be quiet and, fade into the abyss, because, that's what the majority has decided upon and voted upon, that we have decided that we're going to do it this way. So fuck all of you guys who, didn't belong anywhere and weren't validated or given any opportunity or given the kind of education or attention that you needed. So I mean, do I have an alternative for this? Well, not exactly, but is it my role to have an answer to the problem? No, but no, it's not my role necessarily. I mean, I may come up with an answer to this problem, and I am working into the direction of acquiring wealth to create essentially a nonprofit organization at some point to try to identify, these, exceptional individuals who aren't being served by our society as it is. And, this is, ultimately my goal is finding people who are, somewhat like myself, and, and also very different, of course, but, just talented people who aren't being served by the world as it is, and sort of designing, more of a place, an environment where they can, find themselves and be nurtured and supported and given a pathway, and, to be treated as if, their talents are a valuable thing, because, we're losing a lot of different people with a lot of skill sets that are not, being, that if the world was without it, you guys may say, well, we don't notice it right now. Well, you may never notice it, because once it's gone, you won't realize what you've lost, but because you never really paid attention to the sacrifices and, the people who are being sort of cordoned off and quietly, essentially being, shipped off into the concentration camps of solitary confinement and isolation, because, our hope has been destroyed and shattered, and, our motivation has been completely taken away from us. And, so instead we've decided to, live these lives of, barely hanging on, trying to find any sort of thing throughout the day to give us, meaning to our lives. So, that's what I want to do eventually. When I have enough wealth, I want to support, people that are brilliant, but, that are not necessarily recognized by the world as, serving any whatever kind of monetary or, obvious function to society. I want to find, these, talented individuals who, need something a little bit more special, more focused. And, I think a lot of people, they don't really need a whole lot of help. They just need an environment that doesn't make them feel like, they don't want to be alive, because what's being asked of them is just completely counter to what they're actually good at. So, yeah, this is kind of fun. I didn't know that this is what was going to come out of my mouth. It's always fun to just sort of turn on the camera and see, where my head is today. You find out where your subconscious is by just sort of starting to talk and see what your mouth wants to say. So, anyway, hope some of you guys relate to this, feeling, and to this, have maybe you're one of these people who's sort of been forgotten by society, and you've fallen through the cracks, and now you're sort of desperately trying to claw your way back into having some self-esteem. And so, my heart is with you guys, because, the world needs people like you. The world needs people like me. And, we need to, say what's in our hearts. So, anyhow, this is sort of my little monologue for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love you guys. Have a good one.